melodies.
Big five. Pedro! Last nigga, I ain't going like your last homie did. I can tell you that. Everywhere I go, you know I keep a big stick. Cause I can't go out like your last homie did. My mama told me 5, hurry, get rich. And Flipper told me 5, stay dangerous. They wanna know what I got. They wanna know I shot. They wanna know how I rock. So come find out, little bitch. I'm always on the block. And I keep a Glock. And I heard they plot, but they ain't shot shit. I'm in the staff up in broad day. I heard it's getting scary in them hallways. Heard your OG is a rapist, I'm like, no way. You slide on weekends, man, I slide on Mondays. Man, I'm swerving in them Porsches. Ran that nigga down, I increased my forces. Murder, here goes, 30 clip full of hollows, all we know is murder. You ain't slide back, boy, you gotta turn up. Bro, so get buddies in the sky. I try to tell you once, but you don't come aside. Yo, I'd rather walk and get free my nigga FB. I did time with him, baby.
ADB, this beat go crazy.
Yo, GG, turn it up.
If you hang with my ops, you gon' die with them. I be in the woods with them walkers, we gon' slide with them. Baby, I don't do no drive-bys, I'd rather walk and get free my nigga FB. I did time with him. Baby, come and smoke clutch with the man damn. If he ever talks sick, we gon' send him down. Juicy, that's my blood, bro. Like flipping them. We ain't stopping this war till we get all of them. He ain't with the shits for the internet. You dumb bitch, 5, you ain't into that. I walk up, give a nigga a head tap. And stop talking, nigga, go and check the stats. How you say 5, don't get close. But me and 100 always have to stand no. Bad bitches always on commando. She got a fat ass, but she can't keep it on the low.
Baby, come and smoke dogs with the crown and ran through so many guns, I never sold them. 40 cal for my protection, I call it Trojan. Walk inside my trap house, it look like dungeon. Don't talk about no racks, he never seen 100. He moving bad, then he got smoked the repercussion. The 50 drum, it take me 8 minutes to stop it. I get up close and then I bake him just like muffins. And he don't really want know why I think I'm Russian. And he don't even got no bodies, he got nothing. I treat my brothers better than I treat my cousins. Seen once he get his first skin cut till he loved it.
If you hang with my ops, you gon' die with them. I be in the woods with them walkers, we gon' slide with them. Baby, I don't do no drive-bys, I'd rather walk and get free my nigga FB. I did time with him. Baby, come and smoke clutch with the man damn. If he ever talks sick, we gon' send him down. Juicy, that's my blood, bro. Like flipping them. We ain't stopping this war till we get all of them.
Hey, if you hanging with them bitches, I just say that. I don't play that. Bitches hate because I'm on it. That ain't know that. Ain't met a bitch like this. You ain't never seen a brick on a damn bitch wrist.
Yeah. Mr. Glock. Yeah. Camo AP, I'm a soldier. I got old money, I ain't spent yet, this shit mold. Yeah, I have my way around this bitch, I'm having motion. Who the fuck you put up in this blunt? This nigga smoke. Blue diamond chain on me, this bitch match the ocean. 30 in my size, 30 jeans with no holster. Eyes on the prize, yep, I'm tryna stay focused. I'm living like a king, bitch, I'm not your local joker. All about my bread here, yeah, I keep that toaster. I be sipping red and my little bitch sip mimosa. I hop up out the bed, say a prayer and count my dope. Then hop up in my Lamborghini truck with the dozer. Everybody know on me BK, I don't get no fucks. Wagyu steaks up on my plate, I came a long way from Coca. Niggas talking this and that and they don't even know us. And niggas out here cloud chasing for a name, broke as fuck. If you came from nothing, put your rollie on and hold it up. Paper route, hockey team don't know nobody cold as us. Cutthroat be the gang, that's what I bang, nobody holding us. Real stand up, nigga, don't see myself folding up. We turned her dirt into diamonds, and I'm trying to turn these boys to dust. Fuck this money and these cars and clothes, this shit don't mean that much. Yup, I made a couple million plus to twist my fingers up. I don't give no fuck about no bitch, a bitch gon' eat it up. Either way, I'ma get mine, I don't play. I rip the 5, not the 6, but I still keep a drink. Got money all up on my mind, can't have no bitch in my face. Yeah, all I see is dollar signs and niggas on the side hating. Little bitches, little cheerleaders. That's how them niggas is. I mean, that's how them bitches is. Yeah. Hey, y'all got some more ice?
Remy on the beat.
Bet. I got lean habits. I got kinfolk in the trenches, never seen a patty. Yeah. I was raised by my granny, barely seen my pappy. Yeah. Now I'm paid, I got bitches calling me daddy. Yeah. And my main bitch had mood swings, I got lean habits. Yeah. I got lean habits. Yeah. I got kinfolk in the trenches, never seen an ass. Yup, I keep a killer with me, ready for that action. And you know I got it on me, you ain't gotta ask me. Nassau, I'm blasting, NASCAR, fast whips. I got shooters on my front line, make you do a backflip. Killing shit, no attempts, Glock broke, that's a myth. I drop a whole 100 on your team like I'm Whip, Chamberlain. Dog ass nigga, hell nah, you can't train me. It's a couple ops still breathing, they should thank me. I can't put my trust up in these bitches, these hoes janky. Solid ass nigga, hell nah, I can't let you break me. I cock and shoot like Tracy, they call me Glock McGrady. Butterfly doors on the Lambo truck, you crazy. I be getting money, popping my shit on the daily. Baby bottle full of syrup with no baby. I got lean habits, baby. I got kinfolk in the trenches, never seen a patty. I was raised by my granny, barely seen my pappy. Now I'm paid, I got bitches call.
Who made this beat?
Ayo, man. South Memphis Fines, nigga. Yeah. South Memphis nigga ballin', I get every penny. 20 pointers in my mouth, a shout out to my dentist. I just did a meet and greet and signed a couple titties. If a nigga play with Key, yeah, it's gon' be a killing. Hit that little bitch from the back, yeah, I drilled it. I just bought a plane watch, but it cost a Bentley. I'm just getting money, tell them get up out they feel it. Just turn the deal down, what the fuck is 10 million? Huh? Nigga, I'm tryna get a billion. Prada overalls on look like a hillbilly. Prada overalls on, yeah, baby, this shit different. Snub nose revolver, shoot that bitch like Scotty Pimpin'. 10 toes down, it ain't no switching. Nigga, play get hit with switches. Voices in my head, keep on saying, boy, let's get it. So you know I'ma go get it. I got that photo in my bridges. Niggas playing, niggas scared, they ain't tryna get it. These niggas cuffing hoes. These niggas fucked up. These niggas breaking codes. I'm from Memphis, I can show you how to break a hoe. I'm from Memphis, I can show you how to break a hoe. Bitch, I'm that nigga, I bought a chain so they can hate some more. And I get every penny. 20 pointers in my mouth, a shout out to my dentist. I just did a meet and greet and signed a couple titties. If a nigga play with Key, yeah, it's gon' be a killing. Hit that little bitch from the back, yeah, I drilled it. I just bought a plane watch, but it cost a Bentley. I'm just getting money, tell them get up out they feel it. Just turn the deal down, what the fuck is 10 million? I'm tryna get a billion. I'm tryna get a billion.
What is going on, family? I hope everybody's having an amazing Friday. Make sure you guys drop in the chats that the call is live. Let's definitely get some more people on here before we go ahead and get it started. But today was definitely a good day trading wise. This was a good week, I would say, overall. So excited for some of the breakdowns for some of the trades that we caught. But ideally, like I said, let's get a couple more people on this call before we get it started, family. And let's run it up.
Ayy, big bad wood, we can smoke a Ford. Lot of shit I do, niggas can't afford. Had a bad before Sierra, I trapped off the drawer. You get hit with FN, then it's. These niggas 12 jet like Cole McCoy. I'm serving cooking jet like Chips Ahoy. I'm rocking water, my nigga got a shore. Why body got horse shit inside the garage?
Listen, this big X, bitch, I'm the big. These women don't want me, just want all my children. Can't talk to Glocks if they don't come extend. All he think that he with it. If I tell him to spin it, my little nigga spin. Just live with the gang, spit the 10 on some 10. My BM the best, spit the dub on her teeth. Got 30 for niggas that's thinking they see.
Yeah, X is big on big. Lil' bro Glock ain't regular, it's rigged. Play me like a square, I'm a 5 this seed. Before I spoil a shot, they gotta take care of my kids. Trap have a hat, pull up, get you some wigs. Hey, what you know about trying to get out some mids? Hey, I'm double rapping the Zara so loud. When I come through, you can hear it. Roll over, get bread on the wake up. Man, that new Glock Daffy, you can't duck it. Had to send a pack back cause it ain't musty. Diamonds hit day and night like Kid Cudi. Pretty ass stick case to get ugly. Smack her, tell her be quiet like a big cousin. Start my left and my right, make it get chubby. 12 hot behind me, I'm a Nick Chubb. Ride with a scale and a meat
I really sold. See, I jumped off the block back when I was a. When I pick up my wrist, all these bitches say. Bet they hear this new shit and say. And we stepping on shit, it ain't really nothing new. All these apes mobbing with me, come straight out the zoo. Feel like Caesar, I taught all these apes how to shoot. No mask on the league, just to see what he do. Every nigga that's with me gon' slide like a new. I can't cuff on the hoe if that bitch don't produce. What this shit on my wrist, the same price as your coupe. If I ever go broke, then just give me the loot. Had to get to the money, that shit through the roof. They be loud on the net, but in person they mute. Cause it's true, we be standing on shit like a boot. And my money grow every which way, call it groove.
Big bad wood, we can smoke a Ford. Lot of shit I do, niggas can't afford. Had a bad before Sierra, I trapped off the drawer. You get hit with FN, then it's. These niggas 12 jet like Cole McCoy. I'm serving cooking jet like Chips Ahoy. I'm rocking water, my nigga got a shore. Why body got horse shit inside the garage?
Alive, but you should have been dead. Big bro got a 9, but it should have been less. I can tell you about risking it all. If this car gets spun, then I'm looking at 10. Double R, oral sex, that's culling in head. Rapping, still trying to put it to bed. No leg shot, still gotta push it in chest. Arching her back, gotta juke it the best. Not in her face, now she looking a mess. All of my pagans looking depressed. If rap don't work, then I'm looking a wreck. Got my guy in the can, now he looking to tech. Future's bright, still looking to step. Telling her friends I've been hitting her up, that's crazy. I want her to hold this glee, I ain't looking for sex. Tell the guys, chip in what you can, me and broski will put in the rest. I learned how to whip, no theory or practical, now I ain't looking at test. Don't know if she's buzzing or trying to impress. Came man, don't know why she got on a dress. Known for pulling up outside a pagan's house whenever we got an address. I see get his lungs all punctured, literally watched him run out of breath. HMP need a hand in, couple of trackies, couple of cracks. If she finds it hard to keep it shush, then that's one thing I want trouble again. Feds at my door, I'm in trouble again. Up block tryna burst his bubble again. ZK over the flickers, but I've seen man get done worse with a flick ting. Left man red then blue on the crypting, and I still ain't put it in crypto. Met so many acts in jail, martial law, but bro I'm a Christian. Our OPP got splashed in his head, we basically went to a pagan's christening. Don't televise when I go on a glide, don't bring my phone on a ride cause I mean it. Blood on my knife whenever I see them. 2 days and I bet you I beat it. Wrist on froze, fingers, mouth, it's a hot summer's day, but you know that I'm freezing. I know I ain't got amnesia, I ain't forgotten what happened on G-Wing. I don't wanna hear intent to supply. GBHAMOP, we step in a dance and go to the restroom. Just know we ain't tryna go wee-wee. Take care of the ting, if it jams it might need grease. Santorini, if I step on your block and spray that, let's be real, I ain't doing graffiti. I don't wanna hear intent to supply. GBHAMOP, we step in a dance and go to the restroom. Just know we ain't tryna go wee-wee. Take care of the ting, if it jams it might need grease. Santorini, if I step on your block and spray that, let's be real, I ain't doing graffiti.
What is going on, family? Drop a 111 if you guys can hear me in the chat. Oh my gosh, this youth almost hit a home run. Oh man, holy, I needed that youth to crank a homer. Moo is in the cut. Oh man, I need this youth to hit a homer, and he hit a foul. He crushed it though down the right field line. Holy. That had the power for sure. But happy Friday, family. Market recap. Going to be going over a few trades that just definitely occurred over the course of the last 24 hours, as well as just to overlook at a couple things when it comes down to just positioning, right? Position wise. So what I would say overall, right, it was a pretty good week when it comes down to the metals, when it comes down to the indices as well. But the most important thing that I would say everyone should do is just take a reflection of the trades that they took this week. I know that I'm going to be doing that right after this call. And the purpose of that is to just really learn where we can improve, because I'm sure a lot of us had a lot of decent trades or a lot of banger trades, but how many trades or how many potential things did we do this week in the market that could have been avoided, right? And there's probably a couple things. So just being able to put that into understanding. If we don't actually learn from the experiences that don't go in our favor, what ends up happening is we create a redundant cycle of just doing the same thing over and over again. And truthfully, when you first come in, you might have the passion, the desire to do that, but it's going to get to a certain point where you're going to donate too much money and you're just simply not going to be able to afford to just give your money to the markets. So something is going to have to change eventually. So unfortunately, in our case, we cannot change the markets. We can't make the market go in our favor. We can't make it go in our direction. But the one thing that we can do is ensure that we really sit there and make the changes necessary from the things that we can control. Like, for example, where do you enter a trade? Right? Because to me, that's probably one of the biggest things that probably goes wrong for most people too. Right? You enter the trade maybe in the wrong place. So when it comes down to the psychology behind what we should really be doing on the charts, it's more than just surface level things, truthfully. Like, we sometimes overcomplicate things that don't need to be overcomplicated, right? So the one thing today that I feel like we really, could learn from is obviously gold, right? If you guys weren't on this morning's call, we kind of went over it a little bit this morning, but really gold, it's interesting because a lot of the times, really what a lot of people kind of get confused and kind of look for when it comes down to the markets, right? We sometimes get, we kind of get baited, right? Especially when sometimes we get these smaller time frame breaks of structure on like the 30-minute, the hourly, whatever the case may be. Like, there's just a lot of times where structure and price looks clean, but you always have to just be willing to pay attention to where money is being captured. So overall, yesterday was fairly clean. Like I said, we were looking for gold to break down overall below just this low that was made on Thursday. Or actually, I think it was earlier than that. So I think it was this. So realistically, just even from Tuesday, right? Now obviously we're on Friday. From Tuesday, we were looking for shorts, right? So we were looking for shorts, and we ended up selling off fairly well, but we were looking for shorts to target this low, this particular wick, right? Just because of the news event that took place that day. If you guys just are familiar with news events, typically on gold, when we have impulsive news events like that, where we have big impulsive wicks that then have us impulsively go one direction, then flipping in the other, you're typically going to see that get filled for the most part, right? But the biggest thing and the most important, I would say, point that we'll probably cover in terms of a technical aspect is just the accumulation, right? So for those of you that are just not familiar with accumulation or distribution, right, that's really the only two ways that the market is going to go, right? There's two phases that the market could possibly be in. Either accumulation, which is simply just being oversold, there's too many sellers, right? And then distribution, which is simply just being overbought. Okay? So when we sit there and we take a look at these accumulation schematic, right, typically for the most part, when I break it down to you guys, I break it down, and I like to break it down in a simplistic manner when it comes to just making it as easy as possible. Okay, so typically when we first are looking for accumulation, the first thing that we want to be able to identify in the market is our selling climax, right? Because if we really pay attention, ideally, the reason why you guys lose trades, I want you to write this down, is because you're more than likely entering in phase A or phase B. So you're typically getting in a little bit too early, and what ends up happening is your stop loss gets hit. You have the right direction, you know, you might be looking for buys, but you might get in one push too early, and then now you find yourself in a position where your stop loss gets hit, and then price quickly runs away from that point. And now you either would have been in profit, or you would have found yourself just in a position where you would have been, maybe you would have had a better entry, right? If you were just patient looking for maybe a better area, a lower position or a higher position, depending on what you were looking for. So the first type of confirmation I look for is typically a 15-minute or 5-minute break of structure. So what that typically means is based off of just seeing lower lows and lower highs. We can see that we were obviously bearish just leading up until this accumulation. That's typically how it's going to go. But you can see we were making lower lows, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Okay? So when it comes down to lower lows and lower highs, typically what you want to see, right, is lower lows and lower highs. But where we really failed to do that was in here. And here we kind of got a counter trend going, right? We failed to make a lower low, and what we ended up doing was we ended up making a higher high. Okay? So with that, this first initial break of structure right here, right, because we got to close above the body of this candle, right, and the close, right, we sit there, we can see this candle just barely closes above that candle, right? But the fact that we close above that candle, what we can now do is identify this as our selling climax. So what we would do to confirm that is, after that break of structure, what we would want to see is a push below, right, the selling climax, and then we would want to see ideally a little bit of retracement to the upside, and then slowly break itself down. And when we break down, we're actually going to come lower than that secondary test in phase B, because there's a secondary test in phase A, but that's not really, to me, you don't really have to pay attention to that. As long as you can identify the selling climax and then the secondary test in phase B, that'll be sufficient enough to be able to help you to identify the spring, which is in reality, you want to be entering in phase C, phase D, right? The beginning of phase D is ideally going to be your continuation. You're just going to see price relatively continue up with minimal pullbacks, but ideally the spring and the test is going to be your bread and butter. That's going to be where you're going to be getting the most pristine entries that are just going to be optimal in terms of risk to reward. So when we sit back and we go now look at the market, okay, so we identify this area as our selling climax. Right, so this is our selling climax, and we've established why that's our selling climax. What we would have wanted to see afterwards, right, is a close below this low, which we got. So this close below this previous This is like a temporary, I guess in terms of this counter trend, this is a temporary higher low, right? But overall, we anticipate that breakdown. We're not playing the breaker structure. We're waiting for that accumulation. And then once we get that accumulation, whatever breaker structure then occurs, then would be validated, right? You don't just want to be buying off the, like, especially when we're this bearish. Like, you have to understand, when we fall off this heavy, if we look to the left, you don't just want to be buying the first little pop. Because look at how, boom, we get a little pop here, but then what ends up happening? We push significantly lower, right? What ends up happening here? We get a little pop, but then we end up pushing significantly lower, right? So we're always going to get a little pop, and that's going to be the bait typically for most people to kind of get into the market. But just really, like I said, that secondary test is going to be that point that comes below the selling climax. And then from there, the push below, ideally, once we see that these consecutive candles, what we always talk about is seeing consecutive candles print, right? You want to see 3 to 7 candles print to confirm that the institutions, right, the banks are in the move, right? The big hedge funds, the banks that are really pushing most of the liquidity. Truthfully, the hedge funds are not really moving a lot. It's going to be the banks that are going to be moving bulk of the liquidity, right? But they're going to be getting in at certain points, okay? So one thing that we have to really note, okay, if this is our selling climax, this is our secondary test, and this now is our spring, notice how from phase B, after the secondary test, we slowly pop up, staircase down, right? Slowly trickle down, right? This spring comes below the secondary test. What ends up happening? We pop up and then slowly trickle down, right? So we can identify this as our spring, and ideally you're not really trying to like guess where the spring is. Like, there's ways on the smaller time frame that you can kind of identify and position yourself, and that'll come over time. But really, for the most part, if we sit here and we look at just wick off overall, this test, where this test actually comes back to, because you see how we say spring, it goes up a little bit, comes back down, goes up, comes back down, goes up, right? So we get this little test. So this test, okay, this first test is going to come back and it's going to touch this secondary test. So if we sit here and we put a line just on the bottom of the wick of this secondary test, just extend this real quick, and then we look left, look at where we come into, right? The accuracy of this is just very high, because it's like we didn't touch it per se, like exactly, but you have to understand this was less than like 2 pips away, okay? So when we come that close, that's sufficient enough. And if we really look at the 15-minute, if we align just this insufficiency that we had here on the 15-minute, you could have easily positioned yourself off of the 15-minute, or you could have really positioned yourself anywhere off of this candle, okay? So now that we came and we tested that secondary test, the reaction that we got, right, we exploded higher, right, which is exactly what you would have wanted to see. So now, right, that second test is then going to come at that selling climax. So now, if we extend this line, where have we not come back to? This selling climax. So in terms of our second test, that's right now what I would anticipate leading into the new week. I would anticipate us coming back into this 1913 area, potentially filling some of this insufficiency in here. Yeah, these candles just look a little ugly, but to me, I would anticipate price to come back down to at least like 1914, 1915. Okay, because if we even really look at it, we've created liquidity. So we've created targets, we've induced now buyers into the market. So there's buyers right here that are buying a little bit too early. to me, at the very least, will come and will fill this insufficiency. So like I said, this insufficiency aligns with 1915. So to me, of course, we'd want to see 1914. But if you just kind of look at how we filled, we don't have to necessarily come there. If we do, it'll be a quick impulsive wick, and then we'll go. But this could also be a potential area. Once we capture this liquidity, we could see a reaction from towards the upside. So this is something where this is a very good example of wick off. You guys can go study accumulation. Another good study point for accumulation would probably be the 15-minute. If you go back to about, like, I think it was March 7th. Yeah. So in here, March 7th, right? If you come, actually, it was a 5-minute. 5-minute or 3-minute. If you guys go back and you back test March 7th, you'll be able to see the smaller time frame accumulation and test very clearly as well, right? We got the accumulation in here on the 3-minute, right? We broke above, and that this area that we came back to came perfectly off of our test area. So it was just something that was overall very clean. So you can go back test that too. That would be another good example. But overall, for the most part, one thing that I would definitely recommend for all of you as traders is sit there and make sure that you're studying. It's cool to study the charts, but one thing to do as well is make sure that you're personally developing yourself. So one audiobook that I definitely want to recommend, and this is something that I really listened to a bunch of times in the last couple of weeks, and truthfully, I love it. I love it so far. It's been truthfully amazing. But it is called How to Stop Worrying and How to Start Living. So if you guys really sit here and you guys go through this audio, right, and you guys actually take advantage of just this free tool by Dale Carnegie. If you're not familiar with Dale Carnegie, obviously, he's in the Carnegie family. If you're not familiar with the Carnegie family, they're one of the wealthiest families. I forgot what they came up in, whether it was oil or the industrial boom, but they were just one of these wealthy families that came up, right? Andrew Carnegie, I believe at one point was one of the wealthiest people in just alive. So what you have to sit here and just really understand is follow the money, right? Listen to the people who really have the results. And the biggest issue is a lot of the times with trading and even our life, every single day you might go through an experience, you might have a bad trade, and it's like, if you have a bad trade and then you don't journal about it and you just keep it pushing, it's like the next time you go and enter a trade and you then experience drawdown, you're going to sit there and you're going to have the same emotions and the same trauma and the same anxiety that you had the last time. And living in a state of anxiety and living in a state of just constant depression or constant anxiety is just something that is crippling. And what we end up doing is we're focused so much on yesterday's results, and we're worried so much about what we're going to do in terms of tomorrow's results because we fucked up yesterday's results, or so we tell ourselves. And in reality, right, we really have to sit there and we have to dissect, like, what is really serving us and what isn't serving us. Like, a lot of people want wealth, but then they're not willing to put in the times and the sacrifice to obtain wealth. It's like there's one thing between being comfortable, and then there's another thing between truthfully, like, just having financial freedom and being able to do what you want, when you want, whenever you want, and not having to worry about anything. It's like, I feel like everyone wants to get to that point, and in order to do that, we have to be able to take control of our mindset, because the daily disciplines and the daily actions we take will dictate the outcome that we have with just everything overall as a whole. Okay, so do you still trade even if there isn't a wick off schematic? I do, but for the most part, it's like phase C or phase D. So I'm just playing structure based off of like me riding the movement, right? So in phase D, you should really just expect continuation higher, right? And like I said, you're gonna get a bunch of tests out of a bunch of different areas. So it's just like, it's all a matter of being able to come back and really position yourself in a way that just makes sense based off of just multiple confirmations. You don't just want to be looking at one thing. Of course, you want to look at wick off, but you could look at wick off and still have trouble identifying positions if you don't really understand like insufficiencies or where the right imbalances are, and things along the lines of that. But realistically, as a whole, I feel like this is like a good kind of study case that you guys could kind of go through, that we went over in depth. Like that audiobook, I would just definitely recommend to everyone. I would suggest listening to it like today, because when it comes down to the success of you in the charts, like I said, you have to have a plan. Like if you don't have a plan, you're gonna fuck up. So if you want to start making money in trading, what you have to start doing is being around people that have success in trading and just doing what they're doing. Because like I said, what you're going to realize is the reason why they have success in trading is because they have success in a bunch of little daily disciplines that accumulated together compound and create an extravagant result that a lot of people can't even grasp or fathom how they would have been able to progress so fast and obtain so many things just out of their initial thought, just belief, right? Their initial reality will just be shifted, right, to a core. So what we have to internalize is just what we're doing outside of the charts is just as big as what we're doing on the charts, because how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? The price of everything you want in life is the price of everything you have. So are you willing to give up everything that you have? Everything you have is the poor habits. Everything you have is the friends that you have, the house that you live in. Like, are you willing to give up everything? Are you willing to sacrifice everything? And it's like most people are just simply not. And it's like, if you're not, that's fine. But it's like you can't then expect a certain level of success. You have to expect mediocrity. You have to expect complacency. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up today, just because, you know, it is a little bit smaller of a stream. So you guys could just kind of go through some of the lives from this week and kind of study the live trades. I feel like that's more informational anyway than just me kind of going through a few things. What I'm going to start running starting next week is actually going to be a mindset and psychology call weekly, where we're just going to be focusing on psychology and mindset. We're not going to go over any charts because, you know, truthfully, a lot of people have asked. I kind of stopped running them for a little bit, but I would say that for the most part, it's something that is just fairly clean, right? But overall, like I said, this is something that what we want to make sure that we do is just prioritize these calls, right? On Friday, I know you guys could be doing everything, like anything, but you just really have to ask yourself, if you guys really want to get the results of a successful trader, you have to be willing to make certain sacrifices. So, you know, next week, let's definitely aim to make sure that if you're on this call, I want you guys to make sure that you just message 2-3 people that you're close with, that you want to see succeed, and let them know, like, yo, you can't miss this call, right? Because, you know, I do these calls for free and I love running calls, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's up to us as a community. It's like, if you guys are getting value, it's like, you got to make sure that you're helping other people, because you could be the reason why someone gets a breakthrough, right? Because if you invite someone to this call, for example, and they get a breakthrough, they hear something that helps them, you are now going to get blessed because you provided help in a service for someone else, right? Without expecting anything in return. You just did something kind out of the kindness of your heart because you're like, damn, I want to help someone. So Sunday, we're going to be live again, and we're definitely going to go through just an overview of what we anticipate for just more positioning for the week. Also, can you show distribution? I'll go over that on Sunday. Just remind me, Freddie, if you just want to hop on Sunday, we'll go through that. To me right now, I need some water. It's a little bit hot in my room right now, so I just need to get hydrated. I feel a little lightheaded. So in terms of that, family, I love and appreciate you guys, and I hope to see you guys on Sunday. I hope that you guys took a couple things away from this call. And like I said, go study some of the lives from this week if you guys want more informational breakdowns with live in real-time trades. So in terms of that, family, I appreciate you guys. I'm going to catch you guys on the flip. Peace.